everybody out there, this is our winemaking team. So Chelsea Magnuson's our assistant winemaker. Neil Collins has been our winemaker since we started, and Ryan Hebert, who's also been our winemaker since we started. As far as specific varietals, do you think that anything performed particularly well this year versus what you've seen in years past, or were there any surprises in the performances of certain varietals this year?
All right, I'll start. It's good, always a good vintage for Syrah, but particularly this year because it's so late, so it's an advantage because it comes in sooner. And also at this point it's showing itself more than anything else, therefore it's easy to tell that it's strong and it's good. However, Mourvèdre being the last to come in is also starting to show quite well. So I don't think it was a great advantage to any particular varietal. I think the ones that got ripe did well because of the lengthy time they spent out here. Nerve-wracking.
And every year we stress about Mourvèdre getting ripe, and there's always at some point where we're going, it might not make it. But that's kind of the idea behind this property, and why they chose this site is because if it ripened really easily and early, it wouldn't be interesting. And so you want to kind of push the limits as far as hang time.
I think there's a point in that perhaps the best place to grow any given varietal is where it only just about makes it.
Again, it's early, but could you draw any potential conclusions from what you've seen so far, based on how wines are showing? I mean, I know it's been, some stuff we just got in 2 weeks ago, but at the same time, some things have been in the cellar since September. Have you been able to draw kind of any, potentially premature, I guess, at this point, but any sort of conclusions about this particular harvest?
Conclusions as to what's going to be good, what's going to be bad?
Well, just what the vintage looks like. I mean, we had an idea when the vintage, before we even started harvesting, that with a longer vintage and longer hang time, it was going to be a little bit more balanced, a little bit more concentrated, because the vines were taking so long to mature the fruit. And I think we've seen that. I mean, everything is really well balanced. It's a really intellectual vintage because everything is just a little bit better matured than it would have been if it was just a quick just pick it.
Yeah.
Oh, intellectual vintage.
Bodes well.
We were all a part of it, so.
Ultimately, I hope I understand it.
How did that come from us?
Must be what Chelsea brings to the
Yeah, exactly.
That's the hands-off approach to winemaking that we employ.
Do you think that there's been specific lessons that have been learned from this 2010 vintage?
I think there was lessons learned more viticulturally than in the cellar. For sure.
Our dog is currently having fun with a mouse.
It's a mole.
It's a mole?
Not a girl. Millie's work is never done. Okay.
That looks more like playing to me.
Yeah, no, you're the bowl. Yeah. So, I think viticulturally lessons were learned. I mean, because we had such a lot of rain and we were able to set a larger crop, fully anticipating the usual Paso summertime warmth and so on. And we were lucky that we got late warmth, otherwise we may not have seen a lot of our Mourvèdre come in. So I think treating vintages with the knowledge that it may not get really hot in Paso Robles and backing back a little bit on some of the varieties we hung a lot of fruit on. I mean, not massive amounts, but more than we normally would because we could, because we got 40 inches of rain. And normally we're very, very low yielding. So I think from my standpoint, it's a matter of, it's looking good, but let's be conservative with what we hang.
It's not a guarantee that we're going to see this continued warmth.
There's a vole like flying behind. Excuse
Probably
me.
makes looking at me a bit more interesting. No, I didn't see that. I'm comfortable with either.
Head was going.
It's not even a little bit distracting.
No, it's difficult as far as the lessons thing goes, because every year is so different. I mean, there's so many variables involved in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that cut and dry. It's not like you can say, oh, next time when the weather's that cold in August, so we should do this, because you never know what's going to happen afterwards. Like Neil said, luckily we had the late heat, but I mean, we were 15 to 20 degrees above normal in October and November.
But if that hadn't
unheard
happened, we would have been in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Potential.
I mean, talking about gambling a little bit.
It's something Jean-Pierre Perrin said to me once, which really has stuck with me, is every year we learn this much. And it's about true. You learn a little bit and you try and use it for the future
try and
where
remember
you can. And this much of that is pertinent to any other year.
Yeah.
You learn that much, and then you disprove everything else that you've already thought you figured out.
Throughout the growing season, I guess throughout the course of the summer, did it feel like, wow, I wonder when it's going to start getting warm? Did you have those thoughts throughout the growing season? Or did
Not really too much, because you just always assume that it will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and everything was looking great. The vineyard was looking great, and okay, it's behind, but it'll get hot in September, and then it did. Into September, we were starting to worry.
Yeah.
When you're in mid-September and you're looking at going, wow, we're looking at harvesting into November easily at this point. And Mourvedre, the lower parts of Mourvedre, start to become a concern, both for not getting ripe, but also for the rainy season to come.
Yeah.
Which we're at the mercy of that. Once it starts raining, if it decides to be a wet November, we're done.
Someone told me, I'm not even sure if it's true, that the Farmer's Almanac had been predicting that it was going to be a really late, hot summer. So I personally was kind of going off of that, just because I chose to believe that, because I wanted it to be true.
We should probably get one of those just to take a peek at every once in a while.
We look at everything we can, and Ryan basically looks at everything we can. We pick the one we like the most. Yeah, that works for us.
That's convenient.
Whatever one's delivering the best news.
Well, exactly. It's all about keeping everyone happy.
Could you guys give a quick kind of summary, 20 words or less, it can even be less than that, of this 2010 vintage for you? Any one of you?
Exhausting.
Exhausting?
It was exhausting. I got to take a vacation in the middle of it.
It's true.
Yeah, that made me even more tired, thinking about Chelsea being in Bora.
Sorry.
Sure, tired is the right word.
Angry.
For me, I would say, it was a challenging harvest. I would say, fortunately for my stamp, I have good people around me. Ryan to find the right thing to tell me is going to happen, the Farmer's Almanac as it was this year, and Chelsea to do what Chelsea does, and that makes obviously everything easier, is to have a good team and make things work and put ideas together and select what works for us out of that, rather than just having a single person saying, it's time we do this. A lot of opinions, and good opinions, and certainly for Ryan and I have been here working together for a long time. We've had a lot of experience with this vineyard, so the decisions are not made quickly. They're thrown back and forth and over days and time in the lab and in the cellar, and Chelsea's input comes in now too, and David out in the vineyard. So having a strong team, that, and especially one that's been here for a long time, has seen a lot of different things happen here. And as Ryan said, it's different every year. But there's always a little bit to be gleaned from other years where you go, yeah, I remember that happened. So, and I'm probably the one that's most annoyingly stressful about the whole thing, but I guess that's my personality.
Ryan, do you have a summary?
Long and tiring.
Long and tiring?
Yeah. Exhausting as far as physically trying to figure out where everything's going to go. Exhausting as far as looking at the vineyard, kind of going, I don't even think we're halfway yet, and we're full. But I mean, like Neil said, I think the quality's been really good. I mean, everything we've been seeing as far as just going through tasting kind of randomly here and there has been surprising.
Yep.
I mean, last time Neil was going through tasting Syrah, I kept hearing him say, wow.
Which is a good thing.
It's a good feeling, yeah.
And I think it bears to remember too. I mean, we don't, certainly I know I don't, and I know Ryan doesn't, and probably Chelsea either, but we don't go home and go to sleep comfortably at the end of the day. Your mind is going, oh, what are we going to do about that tomorrow? How are we going to find space for that? What's the Mourvedre doing? So harvest is long mentally as much as anything else, I think. Certainly for me, that's how I feel about it, and it's because I lie in bed thinking about it.
Yeah. Is there a coming down of sorts at this point, when you've kind of pressed everything off? And
not really, not yet. For me, I mean, but I wasn't massively involved in the latter pressings or anything, so I went for these guys.
I guess it kind of goes straight into whatever it may be, compost spreading or seeding.
Yeah, it goes into
stuff.
the vineyard now.
Yeah.
Now it's trying to get the vineyard all done before the rains come, gets cover crop seed, this compost spread, yada yada, get all that done. So you just step into the next stage. It's very, makes the year
cyclical.
go fast, because it's like landmarks on the way through the year. Harvest starts, harvest ends, compost spreading, cover crop seeding, so on and so forth.
I'm not as involved as Ryan and Neil and David are in the vineyard, but I know in the cellar there's a lot that needs to be taken care of. But I don't know, the other day we moved all of the open top fermenters out, and that's kind of, it's massively gratifying, because that's kind of, all right, harvest is done, we're not using these anymore, it's time to clean out the cellar, make some space, and that feels pretty good.
Any individual singular memory from this particular harvest, as a way to kind of wrap up this discussion? Anything comical? Anything incredibly momentous?
I got married.
There you go.